one of my brain tattoos that I share in the book is an addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production. And we all know about the dopamine addiction that happens when you play with your phone. I mean, it taps into the nucleus accumbens of the brain, which is the reward center. And so every time we look for a like, every time we play with a phone, every time we respond to a notification, there's a shot of dopamine that creates a habit. And then over time, the habit turns into an addiction that is just as powerful as an addiction to cocaine. So everyone who can't break free of their technology is like a cocaine addict. They are hooked to their phone versus hooked to their projects and hooked to their values and hooked to doing something that's going to allow them to feel amazing about their lives at the end. And so this could be helpful to your viewers and listeners, but there's a concept known as attention residue. And every single time you respond to a notification, every single time you look at your phone, you deliver or give a piece of your priceless attention to that notification. And if you do it 100 times a day, then by the end of the day, you have zero focus. I was in a high quality hotel relatively recently, and I ordered a large bottle of Evian water, and I kid you not, they delivered 11 bottles of Evian water. You want to talk about the mistakes being made, it is stunning. There are very few people who are fully present. And yet one of the traits of the great geniuses is this: they could spend long stretches of time in acute focus, thinking about one project free of distraction. And then in the book, I talk about the model. It's called transient hypofrontality, which is really flow state. We all can tap into flow state where genius lives, but you don't get to do there if you're checking your phone all day long.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 to 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 to 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Robin Sharma, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, don't wait.
I know this sounds simple, but it's so powerful. So many people say, yes, when this happens, I will do this. When I have more time, I'll write the book. When I make more money, I'll invest in my growth. When I get the promotion, I'll take the travel. No one knows what tomorrow brings. No one knows what tomorrow brings. No one knows what tomorrow brings. Keep on asking yourself, if I don't do this now, how will I feel later? So don't wait. I'm not saying be foolish. You want to definitely not make ill-considered choices, and at the same time, do not wait.
Rule number 3, don't be stuck in victimhood.
So on our little planet, it's a core philosophy of mine. We're brothers and sisters on a little planet. That homeless person was someone's dreams at a time. The person in the restaurant or the hotel, who it's very easy if we're numbed out and not awake, I mean, that's someone's father or mother. And when I look at most people on the planet, it's no judgment. I see people they're in scarcity versus generosity. I see so many people saying, when I was a kid, I had all this creativity. I don't know where it happened. You see it every day. You have all these people, I want to build a business. I guess I can't. It's psychology of can't versus mentality of possibility. I see people in pain. I see people playing victim. I mean, wouldn't you agree most people on the planet at some form or another, whether it's with their creativity or their prosperity or their personal lives, they're stuck in victimhood.
Rule number 4, connect with mortality.
We were born into brilliance. The saints and mystics and philosophers have talked about it, As we go out in the world, we take on the beliefs and the emotional patterns of those who influence us. You know, and then what happens is we actually forget who we truly are. One thing that I think is very important is also build intimacy with mortality, because you know sometimes people probably ask you this, they ask me this, what do you want to be remembered for? Well, I'm pretty clear. I'll be dust. Hopefully I'll get to live a long life, but I'll be dust and no one will remember me aside from my family, you know? And so why make it about ego? And as we connect with our mortality, we realize what life is really about. And that's a great thing to do from 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, like in that second pocket of the 20-20-20 formula, write in your journal, on the last hour of my last day, what do I want said about me? And have the discipline to architect your life so each day is a mountain climb towards that Mount Everest.
Also, if you want to have more self-confidence and self-belief, the science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action for the habit to stick. That's what I want for you. So I've designed a custom free program where I'm going to send you an unlisted video for the next 254 days to shift your confidence and belief forward. The link to join is in the description below.
One of the real reasons we don't do the things that frighten us is because we are afraid of being judged. And so to become fearless, why not find some time every day to practice becoming fearless? Stop resisting. I encourage you, stop resisting the natural flow of epic performance. Stop resisting the natural seasons of life.
Rule number 5, have a competitive advantage.
I think there's just an opportunity for people when they bring their full presence and their heart to their work. You will be seen now, given the landscape, as extraordinary.
In the 5 a.m. Club, I call it a GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage.
Yes.
It has never been so uncrowded at world class because so few people are doing the fundamentals of world class. So few people literally sit down in blocks of time, create what I call a tight bubble of total focus, and do real work versus fake work.
Rule number 6, have co-values.
You said that everybody should have core values. What are some of your most deeply cherished core values?
Service above self. In other words, contribution, impact, service. Number 2, family. I mean, if I could be a tenth of the human being my 2 children are, I'd be amazing. Family, you know. I've worked very hard, but I've really worked hard on my family too. Even trying to be a great son, you know, a great brother, all those things. Because we all know to get to the last day of your life and say, I made a lot of money and I got a lot of likes and I sold a lot of books and I impacted a lot of people, and your own family never got to know you, that's heartbreak. 3rd value, I'm an aesthete, the French word, lover of beauty. You know, that's why I love Los Angeles. Like we were coming over here and it's like, there's flowers, you know, it's whatever time of the year, there's flowers everywhere, you know? So I love beauty in art and food and people and sunsets, and that's why I love Rome so much. Now that 4th value would be vitality. You know, I really do believe that one of the keys to legendary is longevity. I mean, I want to live till 177. I want to, you know, right? I mean, I'm biohacking and I'm resting and I'm doing the 2 massage protocol and everything possible so I can be rocking my craft and serving as many people as possible when I'm into, you know, I mean, one of the things I'd say is you never want to let an old person anywhere near the inside of your body, right? And we could get into epigenetics and the fact that we have a chronological age and a biological age, but vitality is important. And then I think the final core value is lifestyle. You know, we can serve the world, and that's very important, I know, to both of us. But life is ultimately a really short ride, and so I want to really be around only people. I mean, I am focused. I only want people in my orbit that bring me joy or fuel my joy. I only want to do the pursuits in my business and career and life that bring me joy. And I only go to places where I feel joy.
Rule number 7, seek true power.
I would say pleasing comes from fear and a lack of standing in your true power. There's a distinction I make in the 5 a.m. Club between fake power, big office, for example, lots of money, jets, titles. That's fake power. True power is Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi. He died with under 10 possessions. That's true power. He did not get his power from who he was in the world and by pleasing people. He got his power by intimacy with his highest nature. That's true power. So what's the difference between pleasing and service? Pleasing comes from scarcity and fear, self-loathing and insecurity. If they don't like me, then I'm not enough. Well, any great genius, the great women and men of the world stood alone even if they were an army of one. Galileo, Coco Chanel, Catherine Graham, Shakespeare, Jean-Michel Basquiat. If you look at the great producers of the planet, they were ridiculed before they were revered. You can change the world or you can be liked by everyone. You don't get to do both. So service comes from, here's my vision. Maybe it's the internet, maybe it's Apple, maybe it's, writing a book or a movie. Here's my vision. And even if the world laughs at me, I am so strong in my vision to serve, to disrupt the field, to bring on value, and to live my truth, that even if they shoot me and take a bullet, I will continue at all costs. That is a titan. That's a legend. But a lot of us have not done the inner excavation. And that's why I go back to the 4 interior empires. That's why the 5 a.m. Club, 5 to 6, the victory hour, doing the protocols that I teach in the book is transformational. Because the doorway to success doesn't open outward. If you get it inward and build that core, that warrior meets poet self, you go out in the world, you're powerful.
Rule number 8, start your day with intention.
Get your morning routine right. One of the key themes in the 5 a.m. Club is, as you start your morning, so you construct and build your day. The Spartan warriors said it amazingly. They said, sweat more in training and you'll bleed less in war. So you look at most people and they begin their day like a 5-alarm fire. They start checking their email, they start, hitting the ground running. And so what the 5 a.m. Club method is really all about is the 20-20-20 formula that has worked amazing results with the titans and the A players and the billionaires and the sports superstars that I've worked with. And it's simply the first 20 minutes of your day is intense exercise, and we can get into why that's important in terms of dopamine and reducing cortisol and serotonin and norepinephrine. And then after that, the second 20-minute pocket, which we can get into, is all about reflection, which is where
journaling, meditation.
It's journaling and it's meditation and it's visualization, and you can do some affirmations. And guess what? You could just sit there in solitude and think. I mean, the great heroes of the world were more thoughtful than ordinary people.
Rule number 9, take care of yourself.
Yeah, fasting. A lot of writing the book, I was in fasted state. And for me, the way it looks
Are you doing intermittent fasting?
Yes. But I want to get to 36 hours and then I want to go beyond that. Because a lot of the great creatives and mystics. So for me, it's my last meal might be at 9 o'clock, but I won't eat until 4 o'clock, let's say the next day. When I was writing, a lot of the book was written in Rome. I would get up and have 2 cups of coffee because coffee is a health drink, awesome antioxidant, magnificent cognitive enhancer. And plus, I'm in Italy, drink coffee. And then I just, I'm at a hotel that allowed me to have a tight bubble of total focus, so 0 distraction. And then I go into that flow state and I would just work on the manuscript in fasted state. And I saved a lot on grocery and food bills. Just imagine it. You know how much time we spend even eating?
Yep.
And I'd actually, and then it would be like 3 or 4 o'clock. I'd be in flow. I didn't even know where the time went. And then I'd ask, call the hotel front desk, can you clean my room? I'd go out to the streets and I'd reground and have something to eat. So basically it would be at least 18 hours without food, and then I'd have the window of eating where I'd eat healthily. I'm on a Mediterranean ketogenic diet, and that's how I do the fasting and nutrition. I know by my energy level and by my mental focus when I'm in ketosis, rest
like I said, there's a whole chapter in the book on the essentialness of sleep. And the key piece is this. A lot of business builders, a lot of creative performers, a lot of athletes think that it's work harder to achieve more. Well, that's been debunked by science. We all know that we are at our best creatively, productively, and in terms of our performance when we experience intense bursts of elite performance, and then we make the time to recover. I had a person at one of my events recently, he worked with Usain Bolt, and he said, Usain Bolt told him, I sleep 50% of the time to allow the training to take effect. So I run these cycles of intense creativity and productivity, and I've learned to really rest. I take naps. I've done it since I was 18. And recovery is very important in terms of meditation, visualization, or whatever.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is rest and recover.
But I smile because after this interview, I go dark for a long time as well. And I'm in Rome, which is one of my favorite places as well. And I travel to other places. In the 5 a.m. Club, there's a model that I think is profound, because you're right. We live in a world that evangelizes nonstop hustle. It's all about the hustle. If you're not scheduled 24/7, then you're a loser and you're not doing something right. What I believe, and the research actually bears this out, the elite performers don't operate as marathoners. It's more like a sprint. The Energy Project, for example, has done some wonderful work in this field. And so I have, the model is basically HEC, your high excellence cycle, and your deep recovery cycle. In other words, there are periods through the day where you bring on intense fire, intense creativity, and then you pull back and recover. So one of the rituals in the book is the 60-10 method. You work for 60 minutes. It's full on fire sprint. 10 minutes you recover. You drink a cup of tea. You meditate. You listen to music. Then you come back with an alarm clock in front of you. Another 60 minutes of profound work, creative work, sweaty work, and then another 10 minutes of recovery. And then you do that during the week. You take 2 days off or 3 days off to refuel. And then, as you probably do as well, you take, a month off or 2 weeks off. And so what I'm trying to suggest is if all you're doing is being an elite performer, then you're going to actually deplete the very assets that allow you to own your game and play the long game. In the book, there's 5 assets of genius. It's not just, your talent. I believe it's your mental focus, your physical energy, your personal willpower, your original talent, and your daily time. And so smart, creative people and the most productive people, they work really hard, and then they rest without guilt, and they recover and they have fun. I mean, the Japanese novelist Haruki Murakami says, when I'm not writing and enjoying life, my ideas are incubating and I'm writing my next book.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? The science says that when you just watch a video, you get motivated, you get inspired, you have a 35% chance of following through on your goals. 35%! That's not enough. That's not enough just to get motivated. Believe Nation, we're here. You're here. Today matters. You're an action taker. When you commit to a plan of action of when and how you're going to follow through, when you write it down, you have a 91% chance of following through. And when you commit publicly to somebody else, it jumps to 95% chance. From 30-something% to 95% chance of you following through. Believe Nation, we need to make this happen. So question of the day, your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action specific for the next week. Put it down in the comments below, and I'm going to show on screen sometime next week to celebrate you.
Your self-identity determines your impact and your income. That's where the real work is. So what have I done? What have I gone through? Well, I mean, like any human being, I've gone through heartbreak. And the majority says if you go through heartbreak, if you're on your knees because your life is falling apart, rush out as quickly as possible. What I've discovered, Jay, is stay in as long as possible. Because difficulty is growth in wolf's clothing. And if you, Nelson Mandela became Nelson Mandela, or, Steve Jobs became Steve Jobs, or Phil Knight, who created Nike with Bowerman. Those people became who they were because of their most difficult experiences. So the greatest people on the planet have suffered the most. Suffering is not bad. I'm suggesting suffering is awesome. The ego runs from suffering because it's the death of the ego. But I believe pain, difficult times, failure, loss is purification and preparation for personal heroism. And so I've used heartbreak, I've used disappointment, I've used difficulty. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, that was a self-published book. I was ridiculed. I have to say even now, the 5 a.m. Club, because there's so many new ideas in it. Some people are criticizing it, and they're not, because they're not understanding it, because anything new threatens people. And so that activated my self-doubt. Have I missed the mark? Have I spent 4 years doing my very best for this book, and have I got it wrong? And so I believe everything that hurts you can strengthen you.
I mean, the reality is, reading a book or going to a conference or having a great conversation where you get this golden information, that's all fantastic. But what makes mastery is execution on the ideas, not the ideas. And so no idea works unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves, do the practice, invest the time, put in the effort, do the work. I think we've all observed a lot of people who they love reading the books. They love showing up at the courses. They do all the online training and nothing ever changes. And they say, well, I don't know why it doesn't change, why my life doesn't change, why my thinking doesn't change, why my performance doesn't change, why my relationships don't change. Well, it's because ideas don't work if you don't execute on them. So if you look at the great business builders, you look at any great performer, one thing that makes them great is their grit. One thing that makes them great is their hunger to practice. One thing that makes them great is they are willing to sacrifice. I mean, yes, they're passionate, but did you know the root of the word passion is suffering? You've got to be willing to suffer for your vision. You've got to be willing to suffer to reach BIW, best in world. You've got to be willing to suffer the ridicule and laughter of your critics and your cynics to get to a place called world class. Nothing fails like success. You're successful, maybe it's in your health, maybe it's in your finances, maybe it's in your career, maybe it's in your family life, maybe it's in the way that you show up in the world. Awesome. You're in a really vulnerable place right now. It is one thing to be successful. It is another thing to sustain success over the coming decades. Is that not a powerful idea? I mean, let's go to the entertainment industry. It's very hard to be a one-hit wonder. Let's not knock a one-hit wonder. But it's even harder to become an iconic rock band or hip-hop band. Let's go to the arts. It is very hard to come up with your Sistine Chapel. Got it. It is even harder to become a Michelangelo. So are you playing the short game or are you playing the long game? This is rule number 2, or lesson number 2 that life has taught me. Play the long game. Aim for legendary. Don't just say, I want to be world class in my dominant pursuit for a little window of time. Say, I want to have the guts and the grit and the acumen and the mindset and the capability and the commitment to create enduring success. And that's why I say nothing fails like success. You look at the restaurant that is hot in your neighborhood right now. They're on the path to obsolescence if they're not really careful. Sure, they went from a little neighborhood shop that made beautiful pasta, that had great service, that had the owner on the floor, shaking your hand, getting to know your name. Then they got written up in the magazines, and then they got interviewed, and then word of mouth spread like wildfire. And what happened? They became arrogant. You see, success can be so toxic. And it happens, it is such a pull on every human being. It just plays with your mind. And you literally shift from humility to arrogance. You shift from humility to arrogance. And once the arrogance sets in a mindset, it starts to populate every other person on the team, every other person in the culture, every other person in the community. And it is a very short fall from success to irrelevance. So lesson number 2 is nothing fails like success. As you become more successful, become more humble. As you become more successful, work even harder. As you become more successful, care even more about your product. As you become more successful, learn even more. I invite you, when you are the titan of your industry, be sitting in the room with 18-year-olds beginning their game. When you are the icon of your field, be the person who is up, not at 5 o'clock anymore. Let's play at 4 o'clock, reading, listening to the podcast, writing in your journals, setting your goals, focusing on your intentions. As you become more successful, be more humble. As you become more successful, be even more punctual. As you become more successful, become even more passionate. As you become older, become even younger. Yesterday, I was walking on the street and I met this man in his 80s. He said, Robin, I finally retired. He's probably close to 90. And he is a legendary clothier in the country that I live in. And he just retired. And he started his shop, which is now an empire, in 1954. So I don't know what that is, but that is decades and decades and decades and decades. And he did not want to retire. He just retired, but he is still on fire to do amazing things. Age is just a number. Do not let an old person into your body. Nothing fails like success.
Unbelievably important, which is the importance of scheduling. You know, I talk a lot about having a dream, having a plan, being inspired, but all ideas don't work unless you do the work. And some of the best work you can do is getting really good at creating a one-page plan. Have your big 5, the 5 things that need to happen this year for this to be your best year yet on a one-page plan. Your top 5 values, put them on that same plan. Your top 5 sub-goals sequenced into each quarter of this year on that one-page plan. And every morning while your competition or the rest of the world is asleep, get up at 5 a.m. I'll teach you how to do that in future videos. But look at your one-page plan. Spend 20 minutes on that so it becomes a brain tattoo, a burning obsession. So it alights you with inspiration. So you go out in the world and you understand that clarity is power, and you so intimately know what has to happen during this day, this week, this month, this quarter, this year to get you closer to your mountaintop. Because the hours that ordinary people waste, extraordinary people do. Because they're not bored like most people. Most people need to medicate themselves with too much TV, too much Facebook, too much video, too much chit-chat, too much busyness because they don't know their goals. Because they don't have a one-page plan. Because they don't have a one-page schedule. I mean, I've got my schedule for every 7 days. Almost everything I need to do goes on it. And you might say, Robin, well, that's a very rigid way to live. No, it's a very free way to live, because then I have the power to live life on my own terms. 4th point, become outrageously enthusiastic. And again, you're going to say, Robin, let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Being enthusiastic isn't important. Next thing you're going to tell me is get up in the morning and look in the mirror and saying, I think I am. I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. But isn't it true that the most enthusiastic person in the room influences people, and they elevate people, and they encourage people? Another issue of Fortune magazine a little while ago did a story on Richard Branson's Necker Island conference. He invited all sorts of amazing people, and the reporter in the room said something I've never forgotten. The reporter said, it was striking to me how in each of the conference sessions, the moguls of these giant firms were always the most enthusiastic people in the rooms. It's amazing to me when I meet world-class CEOs. They are the most humble, the most passionate, they are the most engaged, they are the most lively people in the room. I think it's fundamentally important to be the most enthusiastic person you know. I think in so many ways, leadership is about inspiring people by your example.
It goes back to my dad, and he was very much about humility. I mean, he's 77 right now, and he gets up every morning and he goes off to his medical practice, and he still sees patients all day. And he said, I said, Dad, why are you still doing that at 77? He said, because my patients need me. Wow. And so I think, one of the core values he was so brilliant in sharing with me is to be an instrument of service. And I think the moment your ego runs your brain and the ego runs your business and the ego runs your way of being, then your gifts and your talents and your focus and your capabilities are off the creativity and the talents and the service that will make you great in the world. And I think it gets to a very philosophical point, if I may. I think it's relevant to any leader, any entrepreneur, any business builder, any game changer. But there is such an addiction to the shiny toys that the ego sells us. Okay? Yes. Yeah. And society and the matrix and our peers and the world says, if you get a Ferrari, if you sell 10 million books, if you have lots of money in the bank, if you have, the beautiful partner in the big house, then you're going to wake up every morning and look in the mirror and you are going to feel full of joy and peace and feel you're fully alive. And, I've had most of those in my life at a pretty exponential level. I've been very blessed. And not one of those things has provided me with enduring, sustainable happiness and fulfillment. Yeah. And the things that provide me with just deep happiness and deep fulfillment and energize me all come from a position of inner power. And so, at the events you're talking about, I don't derive much power from all the books I've sold or bestseller. I don't care about that stuff. I really don't. I care less about that than ever before. At the end of the day, we are a bunch of people on a little planet in a huge galaxy, and before you know it, we're going to be a bunch of dust. And the great billionaires get buried next to the taxi drivers and the pizza makers, and we are not that big a deal. Yeah. And I think all that really matters is while we are alive, do your best to use every day as a vehicle to birth your talents into the world. And secondly, if you do that, you're going to serve the world and raise the world with you. Mm-hmm. And that all just comes from inner power. I mean, that's just deriving your power from a place within, and that's where you get grace, and that's where you get great creativity. That's where you get boundless energy, because it's not about addicted to what the world thinks of you. Yeah, I think failure is the highway to success. And I know that sounds like a platitude, but society or people teach us, right? Mm-hmm. They say, if you fail and feel uncomfortable, you've done something wrong. Mm. And what I try to do in all of my books and my presentations and my tweets is you cannot get to the mountaintop without taking a few missteps. And so a business that wants to win, you have to outfail your competition. And as human beings, failure is not a bad thing. Ask yourself, what's the opportunity from the failure, and get in the game, because when you get to the last hour of your last day, it will not be the failures you regret, it'll be all the risks you didn't take. We become our standards in many ways. If you are surrounded by B players or average performers, and that is your standard, then your mindset will operate at the standard that is offered to you by the people around you. I mean, we do become our social orbit. And if you are at a standard internally that I want to be a game changer in my field, I want to be BIW, the best there ever was, I want to be the Van Gogh and the Rembrandt of technology or whatever field you play in, then your behavior always matches your internal identity and your inner standards. So your standards are important, your standards for your friendships, your standards for the quality of the work you do, the standards of your languaging, the standards of the nutrition you put into your body, the standards of your love life, the standards of your mindset, the standards of the way you occur in the world. And so my invitation for you, regardless of what you do, is that you raise your game to a place called world class. And that is all about being a game changer. Now, I should caution you, and I don't like that word because language is so powerful, and caution is a word that really is a little dramatic. But I want to caution you, which is as you leave the herd and the crowd and perhaps the cult of mediocrity and rise to being a game changer, it's a very disruptive act. And you actually threaten the masses of people around you. And that's why every visionary was first ridiculed before they were revered. And I'm sure you've experienced it. You say, I want to take my fitness to a whole new level of world class, or I want to take my craft to a whole new level of world class, or maybe you're raising your game financially and then you share it with those you love or your friends, and maybe your friends are those you love and they laugh at you. And how many times have we given up on a dream because we were mocked by the people around you? And all I'm suggesting to you is when you get laughed at and ridiculed, and when people don't understand your next level of world class, that just means you've got a great dream, and that just means you're on the path of growth. So be a game changer. I run what I call the 20-20-20 formula. I shared it with you, and you know, many people around the world have found great value from it. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it sort of rolls back to what the Spartan warriors once said. And they said that the person who sweats more in training bleeds less in war. Right. And whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an artist, whether you're a baker, whether you're a yoga teacher, whether you're a mom, whether you're a street sweeper, you know, when you walk out in the world, there's a call on your life to bring your best game to the world and release as much talent as possible. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, what they do is they get up every morning and they sort of run their day by default. Right. And they're chasing the day and they let life act on them in a very reactive way. And so I think what we want to do is see ourselves as warriors of some sort, where we take from 5 to 6 every morning and we prepare ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so to give a tactic to your many listeners, it's the 20-20-20 formula. First 20 minutes as soon as you get up, 5 to 5:20, intense exercise. And that's going to do a whole bunch of things. You know, a lot of my work is very science-based. And it's going to create a pharmacy of mastery. So you're going to release dopamine, which is the motivational neurotransmitter. You're going to reduce cortisol in your brain, which is the fear chemical. You're going to release serotonin, which even if you're cranky, you start to feel good. You're going to release BDNF, which scientists are calling miracle grow for the brain, which actually allows your brain cells to repair from stress. I mean, this is exciting to me.
Yeah, it is.
Right, so that first 20 minutes, you rewire your brain. What else do? You jumpstart your metabolic rate. What else do? You prepare yourself for resilience against stress, and it just goes on and on. Second part of the 20-20-20 formula, you plan. You pull out a journal, you can do an imprint of your day, which is very powerful, or you can look at your big 5 or your plan. That releases hope, it releases focus, right? Because an addiction to distraction is the death of creative production.
Totally.
Okay? And then the final part of the 20-20 formula, learning. I mean, he or she who learns the most wins. What made Steve Jobs, or an Elon Musk, is they know more than anyone around them. And so I believe that, you know, the more you know, the more you can achieve. And there's great value investing as much money as you have into audiobooks or programs like you do at the Genius, you know, the 25K conference and the Genius Network, or whatever it is. But, you know, every quarter I make sure I get out of my office and I go off to a conference. I invest a lot of money in learning and training and coaching, and that's the 20-20-20 formula. Small wins matter. I mean, we sometimes think that an epic life occurs one sunny Friday afternoon when the stars line up and something revolutionary occurs. And what I'm suggesting to you with great love and great respect is a great life is built not by revolution. A great life is built by evolution. Small and steady wins the race. What you do every day is far more important than what you do once every decade. I want you to really think about that idea. What you do every day is simply your life in miniature. And as you live every single day, so you're crafting your life. What you do over the next hours is really building your future. And if you can just get, and I can just get every single pocket of 24 hours right as best as we humanly can, the rest of our life is going to take care of itself. So small wins matter. You know, the moment in front of the customer where the pull was to go average and you become a merchant of wow sets you up for the next day of a way of being of wow. The little win with your family when you feel like watching TV sets you up for another win the next day. A little win of getting up at 5 o'clock and running your morning routine sets you up for a habit of a 5 a.m. club morning routine. Small daily improvements over time will lead you to stunning results. Tiny wins are the way to greatness. And that's one of the things life has taught me. When you look at the great companies, whether it's an Amazon, whether it's some of the tech startups coming out right now, whether it's a Zappos, whether it's a FedEx, whether it's a Nike, whether it's a General Electric, whether it's some of the little shops in your neighborhood that we really admire because people still cook the food with love, or they serve the food with love, or people have an attention to detail. Great companies are built by those small, steady optimizations every single day. If you look at any great product, it wasn't just one day that built the great product. It was a culture and a mindset of daily innovation and optimization when done consistently over time, which led to world class. Even relationships. A great relationship, it's all about those small daily wins when done consistently leads to a lifetime of love. I was walking in the woods last week, and there was an elderly couple walking in front of me, and they really stood out because they were moving fast, and they were also they had these ski poles, and so this is the autumn in my hometown, and they were walking with these ski poles, and so I sort of joked as I walked by them because pretty much only the three of us in this deep forest, and I said, "You're missing the snow," and they sort of laughed, and we actually walked for about half an hour. And we started going pretty deep. And they said to me, we've been married 52 years. And I said, 52 years, what's your secret? And the woman says, well, I've had to put up with a lot, which made me laugh. And then it was all about the little, small, daily things they did to foster a lifetime of love. I was in Johannesburg a little while ago, and I went through the airport. And I went into the men's room or washroom or bathroom, however you want to call it. And so I walked in to the men's room, and the first thing I hear is, "Welcome to my office." And this was the janitor at the Johannesburg men's room.
That's funny.
Who janitorized, or I'll make up a word, cleaned the toilets like Mozart composed music. Mm-hmm. Now that man has no money. That man probably has very little education. That man is judged by the world as having an unimportant job.
Right.
And that man is a hero, could be a hero to millions of people. Why? Because he actually saw himself as an ambassador to South Africa. And his passion was palpable. And his visceral commitment to doing work at the highest level was like you don't see even from the CEOs. Right. And all I'm saying is, even the person with the broken heart, the person who's down on their knees, whether they see it or not, they have a choice to rise above their circumstances. And leadership and humanity is a testament to the people who have done it. I mean, you you look at Mandela, 27 years in imprisonment. When his son died, he wasn't allowed to attend the funeral of his own son. He said that was one of the great pains of his life. And what did he do? The victim looks at something like that, torture, and says, "I am broken." And they give up, and they close their heart, they close their mind, they close their creativity, and they blame the rest of their life on what happened to them. Mm-hmm. But Mandela, what he chose to do was to use it as an opportunity, because actually, the things that break your heart, if you choose, can open your heart. Fear, the world says fear is bad. Fear is only an opportunity for bravery training. And what he did was he used those 27 years of torture to open himself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, to the point where when he was released and became the president of South Africa, he invited his jailers to sit in the front row at his inauguration. And he was asked why, and he said, because if I don't, I'd still be in prison. Every genius entrepreneur has an eccentric vision. So they're possibilitarians. They are the people who said, well, here's the way the industry has always been, and here's the way the status quo is, but here's what we're going to do. What's coming to the top of my mind right now as I record this is Uber. So you've got Travis Kalanick, and literally through that single app, they don't own any taxis, they don't own any cars, they don't really have any inventory, but through that single app, Uber disrupted the entire industry of that level of transportation. And so, these people, these genius entrepreneurs come up with a ridiculously disruptive idea that is absolutely eccentric in its vision. And that's why people call them crazy. And I'll simply say to you, if your vision is not routinely called crazy, then perhaps your vision isn't big enough and disruptive enough. And we change the world when we change the game. And Bono is sharing the story that I believe he heard, and it was the person walks inside Kanye West's living room, surveys the living room, and cannot believe what's on one wall of Kanye West's living room. And it's this giant poster of Kanye West. And so the person who's in the living room goes, Kanye, it's a beautiful living room, but why do you have this massive poster of yourself in your own living room? And Kanye replies, well, if I don't believe in myself, no one's going to believe in me. And my take on that insight is simply this. No one's going to believe in your lofty vision. No one is going to embrace and enroll in your mighty mission if you don't viscerally believe in it. I mean, no one's going to believe in you unless you believe in you. And Kanye, in many ways is a disruptor in his field. And Kanye, in many ways, is playing at mastery in terms of his craft. But that's coming from this incredible self-belief. And yes, I understand some people will say he's arrogant, and I in no way am encouraging anyone to be arrogant or vain. But the larger point for you and I, as people on the rise to mastery and creating lives that are legendary, is to really dial in on that insight, which is, you know what? We really do have to have the confidence to believe in ourselves, because a lot of time as a leader, a lot of time as a business builder, a lot of time as a craftsperson, we will be in the wilderness. We will have an idea for a business or a product where the rest of the world says that's impossible. And we have to be coming from a place from within where our I can is larger than our I can. You absolutely must do the interior work required where you have these fiery levels of confidence where when the world is saying, you know what, I dismiss your vision or that is impossible, you have to be that lone voice who goes, no, you know what? It is possible, and just watch me do it. You may have read my book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Sometimes I speak about Ferraris because I don't have a Ferrari, but I love the way that Ferrari rolls. And here's what I mean by that. A Ferrari is in many ways mobile art on 4 tires. A Ferrari in so many ways is a distillation of Enzo Ferrari's philosophy on mastery. A Ferrari in so many ways is a reminder to you and me about what world class stands for. And what I want to really dial into today is this. Did you know that every year Ferrari only produces 7,000 Ferraris? And the point of wisdom or the powerful idea I want you to really think about and deconstruct in your journal tonight after this mastery session is, why go really wide when you can be singularly deep? I'm going to repeat that again. But a great company and a great performer goes really, really deep on 1 or 2 things, and that's how you rise to iconic. We live in a world, I call it the cult of superficiality, addicted to distraction, afflicted by interruption. So we take the trinity of our performance assets, our mental focus, our physical energy, and our willpower. Those are the 3 primary assets of a world-class producer. And we diffuse them, we disperse them around thousands of projects, lots of little things. And yet I think of the 7,000 Ferrari philosophy. They are world-class in terms of producing iconic automobiles, vehicles, but they don't want to be, they don't appeal to everyone. They don't produce hundreds of thousands of vehicles. They want to do a few products. They want to bring out a few things, but do them really, really well. And that's really the craftsman's mindset. That's how craftsmen think, or craftswomen. It's do a few things, but do them really, really well. You are an artist. My invitation to you is to produce poetry in terms of your work that the world reveals as mastery. And that is really all about bringing rigor to your game. It's not about doing a lot of things, it's about doing one thing well. Because the secret of genius is not complexity, the secret of genius is simplicity. You look at any genius entrepreneur, you look at any genius producer, you look at any genius athlete, they're not doing 5 sports, they're doing one sport incredibly well and then putting in the training time to be monomaniacally focused so that they become otherworldly brilliant at their one thing. And I guess what I'm suggesting to you ultimately is this. Think about the 7,000 Ferraris philosophy. And if you are a business builder, let's say you're a startup entrepreneur, let's say you're a Fortune 500 manager, let's say you're a professional athlete, because a lot of professional athletes are watching these mastery sessions. Let's say you are a mother or father, a yoga teacher, or a chef. What are the few things that you could actually do in your work so that you take all of your mental focus, your physical energy, and the willpower that you wake up with every single morning, and you really monomaniacally focus those trinity of performance assets on the few things, the few projects that, when consistently iterated and improved every day over time, will allow you to reach a place where the world calls you world class. And if you can not only get this idea on the 7,000 Ferraris philosophy, but apply it so it becomes a way of being, you really will own your game. The point I want to share with you is when I was growing up, my dad took out this poem and he translated it from Sanskrit into English. And it was a poem from the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. And allow me to share it with you. It simply said, "Spring has passed, summer has gone, and winter is here. And the song I meant to sing remains unsung, for I have spent my days stringing and unstringing my instrument." And my brother and I used to look at it every morning before we'd go off to school, but I never really understood it. And so when I got a little older, I said, "Dad, you know that poem you had on our refrigerator door? What was it all about?" And my dad looked at me and he said, "Robin, that was a poem written by a man whose heart was filled with regret over a life half lived." He said, "Robin, that was a poem written by a man who postponed his life. He always wanted to do something special. He always wanted to do important work. He always wanted to be loving in the world. He always wanted to be creative. He always wanted to see the world, but he got busy being busy." Are you being busy being busy? Have you lost that connection to the life you wanted to live when you were a little kid? Are you so busy stringing your instrument that the song that your life was meant to sing has died or is dormant within you? And my challenge to you is simply this: to do whatever it takes before you sleep tonight to reconnect with the best within you that you may have lost. Because one of the things I've noticed is this: there are too many amongst us walking the planet today who are sort of in a waking sleep. They have lost a sense of who they truly are. And your life will never work if there's a huge space between who you truly are and the person you know you're meant to be. Your life will never be flooded with energy, creativity, productivity, and happiness if there is a large space between your life right now and your unlived life. And my request and encouragement and challenge to you is truly that you make things happen so that the person you are starting tomorrow is more of who you know you truly are. It makes me think of George Bernard Shaw. He was asked on his deathbed, "What would you do if you could live your life over again?" And he replied after a long pause, "I wish I could become the person I know I was meant to be." And I suggest to you, it's never too late for you to become the person you've always wanted to be. But don't postpone it for next year. Don't postpone it for next month. Start being that person, that human being, that creative force, that business builder, that mother or father, that athlete, that humanitarian, that force of good that you have always wanted to be, beginning right now. You can be a history maker, or you can be liked by everyone around you. You can't be both. I mean, the very nature of living your personal greatness and doing something otherworldly in our world of ours means you're gonna have to think differently from the majority. You're gonna have to install the habits and routines that most people don't do. You're going to have to live, talk, breathe, walk, work, produce, create in a way that most people who are card-carrying members of the cult of mediocrity just don't buy into. I mean, you look at most people out on the world today, and this is not judging, this is just reporting. But they're addicted to entertainment, they love gossiping, they're negative, they're toxic. Anyone who wants to do anything great, they want to bring them down, they dismiss the game changers, and they're just coasting through life. And so the very nature of you stepping up your game, living your greatest potential, owning your craft, dominating your field, and living a life that's legendary means you're going to have to leave the 5% and make a decision to live as very few people do. And what does that mean? It means you're going to be laughed at. It means you're going to be ridiculed. It means you're going to be misunderstood because leadership is a lonely sport, and it means you just might be hated. And so there is great value when people start to hate you, because if you look at Jay-Z, I mean, I was reading his biography, and he said, I really knew that I was having influence in the popular culture when people started hating me. If you look at a lot of the great authors, when their books go to #1 globally, a lot of the amateurs actually start to say, oh, that's garbage, I could put them down. I watched a documentary last night on Steve Aoki, the famous EDM, electric dance music DJ who's getting so much traction in the world right now. And he was talking about some of the comments that he sees in the social media. And it was things like garbage and, boring and amateurish music and whatever. Even though he's so skilled. I mean, you just watch the documentary called I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. And you just see the skill. And you can just look at any great athlete, and you can look at any great scientist, you can look at any great chef, you can look at any great artist, you can look at any great author, you can look at any great statesman, you can look at any world-class stateswoman. Anyone who has done something at an exceptional level breeds cynics and dismissers. So, the point is simply this: the very nature of doing something that very few people are willing to do means that the majority will laugh at you. Why? Because deep inside, they know they have the opportunity to do something great too. And your example makes them feel guilty. And all I'm suggesting to you with great love and respect is simply this: you do have a choice. You can listen to your haters, you can be one of the haters, you can join the victim herd, you can dismiss people who are doing great things, or you can reach into yourself and ask yourself this fundamental question: what do I want to stand for the rest of my life? Do I really want to rise to mastery? Do I want to get to the last hour of my last day and know that I took every ounce of the human potential I was blessed with, and through easy times and difficult times, I brought it on. And as a result of my values, my mindsets, my heart set, my habits, my routines, my disciplines, I owned my game, and I modeled possibility, and I served lots of people, and I built a great lifestyle. And now it's the last hour of my last day, and I'm surrounded by my loved ones. And even though people threw stones at me, I took those stones, and rather than being knocked down, I constructed a monument of mastery that stands as my legacy. And if you live like that, you'll be one of the great ones, which is my greatest wish for you. You're in a restaurant, the server generally gives you what you expect or less than what you expect. You go into a clothing store, it's what you expect or less than what you expect. You do business with any organization, it's generally delivering on what you expect, but more often, even less. So you have a gorgeous opportunity to lead the field in everything that you do by doing one thing: practicing every single day, because it's a muscle, the ritual of over-delivering. Don't just give your customers what they expect, give them 10x more than what they expect. Don't just give your organization what your manager, what your boss, what the organization is expecting from you. Show something that is so rare in today's economy. Initiative. Initiative. So you're asked to do a project, give them 5 more things than they expect. You're asked to give a presentation on something, go the extra mile. Consistently dial in the daily habit of over-delivering on people's expectations, and guess what? You become a merchant of wow. You become indispensable to your organization. I wrote a book a little while ago called The Greatness Guide, and one of the chapters talked about the importance of being indispensable. And I learned that when I was a young lawyer. And I remember talking to my mentor. And I asked my mentor, you know, the top litigator at this firm, how come he is the icon of the legal profession in this region? And my mentor looked at me and said, Robin, because that person is indispensable to this firm. Well, how do you do that? By practicing the ritual of over-delivering every single day for the rest of your life. He once said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Well, that really speaks to the power of being an original. It speaks to this concept of authenticity, being yourself. I mean, we live in a world where there has never been so much of a seduction to be like everyone else. There's never been so much influence and hypnosis through the social media and through society to talk in a certain way, to walk in a certain way, to buy certain things, to measure your success by the same philosophy. And what I'm encouraging you to do, based on this Oscar Wilde quote, is to be yourself. I mean, talk your talk, walk your walk. Take the time to reflect on your dream. Be true to your own values, because life's greatest heartbreak is self-betrayal. Make your I can more important than even your IQ. Now you're saying, Robin, what are you talking about right here? Well, a lot of people get stuck in victimhood versus leadership by the seduction of saying, well, I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. Well, you are intelligent enough. What's even more important is your mindset of possibility. You see, if you look at the best athletes in the world, the best musicians in the world, the best entrepreneurs in the world, the best managers in the world, the best CEOs in the world, the best coders in the world, the best pizza makers in the world, the best mums and pops, etc., etc. Those who get elite level results are not the most intelligent or naturally gifted people in their field, but these are the people that have that mindset of possibility, and it's all about I can. And that might sound like a bit of a platitude, you know, having an attitude of I can, a mindset of possibility, a mentality of legendary. But when you really deconstruct it, it's really true. The way you begin each day sets up the way you live each day. I mean, the Spartan warriors said it so well. Sweat more in training, bleed less in war. And if you want to be literally undefeatable in business, literally unstoppable in life, you really want to dial in your morning routine. And so you want to do things like starting the day sweating, because that releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that repairs brain cells from stress. You want to sweat because that's going to increase your metabolic rate, which is going to give you energy. And we live in a world where energy is even more valuable than intelligence. You want to, in your morning routine, take the time to write in a journal so you actually can detect your values, reconnect with your goals each day, get to know yourself even more, because awareness is the beginning of transformation. And you want to get your morning routine right, so you take some time at the front end of your day to learn. Because as you learn more, you know you're going to achieve more. And as you understand better, you can achieve larger. The traits that make you strange are the gifts that make you special. And so I know you're different, because you wouldn't be here with me now if you didn't feel you're different. You probably don't fit in with most conversations. I sure don't fit in with most conversations. I don't know a lot about most things that most people talk about, because I don't participate in the majority. Right? I don't participate in the news. I don't like to gossip. I like to encourage people versus diminish people. I like to be productive versus busy. I like to be creative versus complacent. I like to create value versus take from other people. I like to move into my present and future versus get stuck in the past. I like to be fast versus move too slow. I like to be a leader versus a victim. I like to believe in possibility versus get stuck in rational thinking, because you know that instinct is so much more powerful than intellect. And all I'm suggesting to you is simply this. It's the very things that make you different that make you authentic. And if you don't fit in, I just want to share with you, I've never fit in. And the very nature of anyone who's living a visionary life, and you are living a visionary life, no matter what you're doing, let's not get trapped in labels. Oh, I'm just a coder. I'm just a receptionist at a restaurant or in an organization. I'm just a yoga teacher. I'm just a gym manager. I'm just a chef in a restaurant. I'm just a teacher. People always say this when I interact with them on the social media. I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm just a student. No, you're not. I'm just a mom. I'm just a dad. No, you're not just. You're very special. There are no extra people on the planet today. And I just want to say to you and validate for you and encourage you, those things that other people might not get, those are your gifts. You might be awkward. Awesome. You see the world through a different lens. Steve Wozniak, who was on my stage at the Titan Summit Zurich, the co-founder of Apple, one of the best people I've ever met. He would not have been able to create the Apple platforms and products that he created if he didn't see the world through a different set of eyes. Steve Jobs saw the world through a different set of eyes. Travis Kalanick of Uber saw the world through a different set of eyes. Jeff Bezos of Amazon saw possibility. Let me have an online store that initially sells books. John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, Rosa Parks, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Beethoven, Michelangelo, who did the Sistine Chapel, and in Florence, David, Jonas Salk, Tesla. We could just go on and on and on and on. These people were misunderstood because the nature of a genius is to not fit in.
If you want another amazing video highlighting excellence in the Indian community, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.